Coming to Manhattan is almost like getting high for the first time. You experience the city from afar. Perhaps you commute to work, or maybe you come here for the occasional play or nightclub. Perhaps you're a young student going off to college in the Big Apple. It really doesn't matter. Once you've had your first shot of New York, you want to recapture the thrill, the jolt you got when you first got high on the city. Abby had noticed 3 postings on the bulletin board of her synagogue. One was on 96th Street between Broadway and Amsterdam. It was being subleased by a doctor for $750 a month. Now, it turned out that the good doctor was using the apartment as an office, and he would have been happy to lease it to me if I could just stay away from the apartment until 8 o'clock every night. I could have the place to myself on weekends, barring any medical emergency, of course. Now, he pointed out that an examination table was a very comfortable place to sleep. When I asked him what I would do if I wanted to bring a girl home, he proceeded to pull out a pair of stirrups from the table. The third apartment was being advertised by a broker named Joseph, who before anything else informed me that his fee for finding the apartment would be $600. The apartment was lovely. The kitchen had a full 4-burner stove with an oven and a broiler. All right, that's standard for most kitchens, but not in New York. What's more, the kitchen had an eating area and a small table standing on an oriental rug. Actually, the table kind of looked more like one of those large spools that they wrap telephone wires around. There were windows galore, and I tried to imagine the sunlight gently falling in my room as I awoke in the morning. It was a high floor, and by a stretch of luck, there was a playground directly across the street from me rather than a high-rise. This allowed me a complete and unobstructed view of the high-rise that was 2 blocks away from me. An agreement was finally reached. Mr. Howland got the living room and the closets. However, if my parents came to visit, they could stay in the living room. I stopped to consider the likelihood of my parents abandoning their comfortable suburban home in New Jersey to stay on the small guest bed in the living room. Somehow I was sure this was one privilege I would not abuse. Still, I had a bedroom, a kitchen, the furniture, and Mrs. Howland's promise that she would arrange the bedroom so I would have enough space for everything. But what I also had, for the first time in my life, was a home of my own. The elevator doors snapped back. I began my descent. A light flashed, and the elevator operator smoothly brought the elevator to a stop. Another attractive young woman entered. She was wearing a colored T-shirt with blue sweatpants with the letters NBC on them. These were not her initials. Her face, although not the movie star type, had an abundant pleasantness to it. When she smiled, it did not matter that half the light bulbs in the elevator were not functioning and the remaining ones were about half the wattage they should have been. Her voluptuous dark brown hair surrounded her face, stopping just above her shoulders. Her 5'5" figure was modestly shapely and alluring, although not so much as that wonderful smile. "I'm going to pick up my laundry," she said. During our brief descent, I learned that her name was Bonnie and that she was an accountant for NBC. Had the building been larger or the elevator slower, who knows what might have developed. But we reached the lobby before I could learn anything more about her. I left not knowing her phone number, her apartment, or even her last name. She was simply Bonnie, the girl with the laundry in the elevator. That night, I made a decision. As soon as I moved in, I would be doing a lot of laundry. You have to understand that I am the only member of my immediate family who does not have an advanced degree beyond a BA, which I do have. You see, my father has an MBA. My mother has a master's in remedial reading. My brother is a doctor. My sister is a lawyer. My brother is married to a doctor. My sister is married to a lawyer. My wife is a doctor. Her sister is a doctor. Her other sister is a doctor who's married to a lawyer. I am an Indian chief. When I moved to Manhattan, I did not bring much from my parents' house, as they would constantly remind me every time they went down to their basement. I brought my clothes, my stereo, my desk, my records, my 3-speed Sears bicycle, and, oh yes, my 1979 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, also known as Kid. Why Kid? It's a combination of two things. First, the Knight Rider car Kit, and the second, the fact that my father used to refer to it as the kitty car, since my brother and I shared it, although not always harmoniously. So why did I bring the car? Well, first and foremost, I managed through my job in real estate to get an excellent deal on a parking spot. Okay, it was 90 blocks away from my apartment, but a Manhattan parking spot is a Manhattan parking spot, and it was indoors. Still, it was very confusing to my non-city dwelling friends. Why don't you jump in your car and join us, a friend would ask. And I'd have to explain that it's not that easy. Well, you still have the car, don't you? Well, yes, but we don't live together. I was once out of state in a rental car that I needed to park. There was only one very tight space available. Still, I pulled up and parallel parked the car on the first try. Now, there were these two men watching me. After I parked the car, one of them came up to me and said, "New York?" And I said, "Yes." He turned to his friend and said, "Told ya. Your car needs new brakes and steering adjustment," my mechanic informed me. "Oh, and by the way," he continued, "you failed your inspection." "Oh, was it the brakes?" I asked. "Oh, no. One of your taillights was out." "Would that be the one I asked you to fix?" "Yeah, that's the one." And this was the man I was entrusting my brakes to. Nancy suggested I try a synagogue in the neighborhood by the name of Ohev Tzedek. And it was commonly known as OZ, and yes, we referred to the rabbi as the wizard. Now, depending on who you asked, the synagogue was either a wonderful place to meet somebody or the biggest meat market in Manhattan. This little girl was the best icebreaker in the synagogue. She would give young women a look which seemed to say, "Hey girls, look, this nice man is holding me. He's not my daddy, but I'm not crying, so come and meet him." I'll tell you what used to be a secret, but is now a little bit too well known. If you go to the parade the night before Thanksgiving, you'll get a treat. Outside, you go to the Museum of Natural History, and outside of the museum on the street is where they blow up the balloons. Now, if you get there too early, you'll see some flat vinyl-like colored blobs. If you get there too late, well, they won't let you in. But if you go at just the right time, you will come up close and personal with the likes of Charlie Brown or Snoopy, Superman, Spider-Man, Clifford, the big red dog, and maybe even the Macy's Dragon. It's like going to a rock concert and getting to chat with the band before they go on stage. And so help me, the last time I went, I think I saw the Macy's Dragon wink at me. And it's times like these that I really love living in the city.